The floor above me was always quiet until it wasn't. I told myself it was pipes or wind or old wood, but the sound was too careful, too human to be the house forgetting itself. It started just after I got the letter about the rent reduction, the one that said Unit 6B would remain unoccupied for the foreseeable future due to structural damage and long-term leasing complications, which I took to mean legal trouble or mold. Or maybe someone had died up there and the building didn't want to deal with disclosure paperwork. I remember feeling oddly relieved because it meant no more footsteps above my ceiling, no heels tapping across tile, no muffled conversations bleeding through the floor when the insulation failed. I didn't realize until weeks later that I'd never actually heard anything from up there to begin with. Not once in the 2 years I'd lived here, but I accepted the letter and filed it in the drawer by the fridge with the expired warranties and the vet's number for a cat I no longer owned. For a while it was the silence that felt unnatural until it wasn't. First time it happened, it was barely audible, 3 knocks. Not fast or frantic, just measured, deliberate, like someone tapping their fingernail on a wall, close enough to feel, but distant enough to doubt. I was lying in bed with my eyes closed and felt the sound before. I really heard it, like a pulse that didn't belong to me, and when I opened my eyes I didn't move, I waited. I remember thinking it was part of the building settling, or maybe my neighbor across the hall closing a drawer, but the knock came again. 3 taps, then silence, then 2, then 1, and I stared at the ceiling like it might blink back. The next day I went upstairs feeling stupid, even as I climbed the stairwell, telling myself I was just checking the mailboxes or stretching my legs, or maybe testing the emergency exit's lock. But I stopped at 6B to HER. E was no placard on the door, no scratch marks around the keyhole, no name on the mail slot, just beige paint and dust. I pressed my ear against it and heard nothing. No shuffling, no voices, no appliances humming like they do when a room is occupied. I knocked lightly, expecting the sound to echo flat and cold, but it didn't. It sounded soft, cushioned, like the space behind the door absorbed sound instead of carrying it. I left quickly, embarrassed by how unsettled I felt back in my unit. I convinced myself the acoustics in old buildings play tricks, that maybe the knocking had come from the wall instead, or the floorboards shifting under pressure changes, or my own bones aching in time with my heartbeat. But then it happened again and again, always at night, always from the same spot above my bed, just left of the ceiling fan. The pattern began to repeat itself. 3 knocks, pause, 2 knocks, pause, 1. Then nothing for exactly 43 minutes. I timed it. Every time I didn't tell anyone because I didn't know how to describe it. Without sounding like I was unraveling, I stopped sleeping fully, laying half awake. Most nights listening for it, dreading its arrival, but fearing its absence even more. The silence between patterns became heavier than the sound itself. I tried recording it once, set my phone on the nightstand and hit record, but it never picked up. Nothing. Just ambient hum and a bit of shifting as I moved in bed. It felt like the sound wasn't meant to be captured, only experienced. One night I knocked back. I don't know why, it felt childish or desperate, or both. I mirrored it. 3, 2, 1. I waited. Nothing, no answer, no sound at all for the rest of the night. That silence should have calmed me, but it felt like being punished. The next evening I got a call from the building manager. He sounded tired, like I'd woken him. He said a tenant on the 3rd floor had reported a disturbance coming from my unit, specifically someone knocking repeatedly through the night like a ritual. He wasn't accusing, just asking if I'd maybe been hammering something, or hanging art, or rearranging furniture. I told him no. I asked if there was anyone in 6B. He paused, said no, still sealed, still unoccupied. He even joked that I was lucky I had the only unit in the building with no neighbors above. I asked him if he'd ever been inside 6B. Another pause. Then he laughed, quiet and short. Said he had a key but had never used it. Said some units are better left closed when they're not up to code. Said he'd make a note to inspect it next month. That was 2 months ago. He never followed up. I started leaving the apartment during the evenings, going to late movies. I didn't care about wandering aisles at the 24-hour pharmacy, taking the long way home, but the moment I stepped inside, I'd know if it had happened again. There'd be a shift in the air, a mild static charge, a feeling like someone had just stepped out of the room and left the temperature behind. I stopped using the bedroom. Slept on the couch with headphones and volume up, but sometimes I'd wake up in the middle of the night and feel that same pressure, like the ceiling was listening to me, like it was waiting. One morning, I noticed something new, a faint discoloration on the ceiling where the knocks used to come from. Not water damage, not mold, just a subtle shadow, like something had pressed lightly against it from above. A shaped fingertips. I tried to ignore it, scrubbed it with bleach, repainted it, even moved the furniture around to avoid looking up, but it darkened again, slowly, as if returning. I finally called the city housing department to ask if the unit above had been cleared, if anyone had access to it, if maybe someone was squatting. They told me the unit was sealed, uninhabitable. No active utilities, no tenant record, no lock changes in over 4 years. I asked when it was last inspected. The line went quiet. Then the woman on the phone repeated herself. There is no one in 6B. A few nights later, the knocking changed. It started earlier, just after sunset, and didn't follow the old pattern. Instead, it was frantic, not violent, just persistent. Like someone trying to signal in code. I recorded it again. This time I didn't use my phone. I used an old voice recorder I found in a drawer, one I hadn't touched since college. I hit record, left it on the coffee table, and stepped out for a walk. When I came back an hour later, the apartment was quiet. Too quiet. I checked the tape. This time it had picked up something. Not knocking, breathing, shallow, careful, close to the microphone. Then a voice, just one word, whispered with hesitation. My name, not yelled, not said like a greeting, just stated, as if confirming something. I didn't listen to the rest. I deleted it. Threw the recorder in the dumpster behind the deli. The next day I went upstairs again. This time I brought a screwdriver. I told myself I'd just try the door, see if it was really sealed, see if maybe someone had broken in and the building didn't know. The knob turned, but the door wouldn't open. I pressed my shoulder against it. Nothing. No give. I knocked once, just once, softly, and then I heard it. Footsteps, not approaching, just shifting like weight being transferred from one leg to another on the other side. Then stillness. I left before I could do something stupid. I haven't been sleeping. I don't mean that poetically. I mean I genuinely don't remember the last time I slept fully. I'll close my eyes and time will pass, but I won't rest. I'll wake up with my jaw clenched and my hands numb and my throat dry, like I'd been screaming into a vacuum. I started writing notes to myself. Nothing elaborate, just short confirmations. You are awake. Today is Thursday. Do not answer knocks. But I'd find the notes crumpled or moved or missing entirely. I started mailing them to myself instead, time-stamped, outside my control, just to prove to myself that things were still linear, that the days hadn't started looping, that my memory hadn't begun to rot. Then last week the woman downstairs stopped me in the hall. She looked tired. She asked if I was okay. I said yes. She asked if I'd been hearing it too, the knocking, the footsteps. I didn't answer. She said she'd filed a complaint because it kept waking her up. Said it sounded like someone pacing in circles above her bedroom. I asked which unit she was under. She said 6B. I almost laughed, but my throat locked up. I told her 6B was empty. She looked confused, said she saw someone coming out of it last night. Said they were barefoot. Said they didn't look at her, just stood in the hallway like they'd forgotten why they left the room. I haven't left the apartment in 3 days. I keep all the lights on. I sleep during the day. Now I ignore the knocks. I ignore the shadows moving across the ceiling. But last night the floor above me creaked in a new way, long dragging steps, not walking, just moving. Slowly, like furniture or like someone crawling. And this morning when I opened the front door to check for mail, there was a note on my welcome mat. No envelope, just a folded slip of lined paper. I opened it. There was no message, just 3 sets of numbers written in pencil. 320. Think I understand now. I think the pattern was never knocking. It was counting down. The first prints showed up on a Tuesday, and I only noticed them because the snow was new and I hadn't gone outside in days. They didn't lead to the door, only away from it. Like someone had walked out of my house barefoot in the middle of the night and vanished into the yard without ever coming in. I stood there for a long time, just watching them fade into the trees, thinking maybe they belonged to a deer or some other animal. But they were human, perfectly spaced heel to toe, and too narrow to be mine. I live alone. That much hasn't changed. What has changed is harder to name. There's a sound that wakes me up most nights now, not loud, not sharp. Just a soft shift in the air, like something moved gently where it shouldn't. Have it's always around the same time, minus 342 a.m. According to the blinking microwave clock, I never set it because I never needed to, because nothing in this house runs on time anymore. The light in the hallway flickers when I think about leaving. The radio turns itself on if I stay too long in the shower, and now the prints, I followed them once, not far. Just past the back fence where the trees start to thicken, and the snow sits quiet like a hush, undisturbed, except for those perfect, delicate shapes. They just stopped, like whoever made them either flew away or sank. There was no return trail, no sign of a turnaround, no smudge, just gone. I stood there until my toes went numb and my hands started to shake, and I remember thinking, was I sleepwalking? Did I do this? But my feet are too wide. The arches don't match. I took photos just to prove to myself I wasn't imagining it, but when I checked my phone later, the pictures were blank, all white, not overexposed. Just featureless, like the phone didn't record anything, or like it did, and then something erased it. I haven't told anyone. I wouldn't know how to explain it. I barely talk to anyone now anyway. It's been like that since Elle left. Not dramatic, not loud, just a drawer that didn't get closed, a toothbrush that stayed dry, a silence that stretched too far without snapping. We never fought, we just faded. She used to say this house was too quiet for two people who don't talk, and maybe she was right, but now it's quiet in a different way. Now it's quiet like something's listening. There's a spot near the bedroom door where the floor creaks differently. When I step on it, it never did that before, and once when I came back from the store, my one outing that week, the creak sounded even though I hadn't stepped inside yet. I told myself it was the house settling. I always tell myself it's the house. But then last Thursday, I found the second set. They weren't fresh. The snow had already iced over, but I could still make them out. This time they curved slightly around the side of the house, like someone was circling it. Still barefoot, still too small. Still no prints leading in, just out, always out. And always after a night I couldn't sleep, I started writing notes to myself, taping them near the door, trying to track the nights. I heard things, trying to build some kind of pattern. But the notes go missing, or worse, they change. One said 342. In my handwriting, I know it did. I remember writing it. But the next morning it said, "I'm sorry." Instead, same paper, same pen, different message. That one I burned. The rest I keep in a drawer, but I check them twice a day now to make sure they haven't moved. Last night I dreamed of the hallway light, not it turning on or off, just the way it hums when no one's near it. That soft electric purr, I could feel it in my chest in the dream. It felt like standing next to a power line, like something was waiting. I woke up at 342, of course, and this time the light was already on. It shouldn't be. I never leave it on. I walked over, stood under it, and waited to feel something. A breeze, a hum, anything, but there was only stillness. Then I looked down. The floor under the bulb was wet. Just that patch, just a faint glisten like a foot had stepped there moments before. I didn't touch it. I couldn't. I went back to bed and lay there with my hands crossed over my chest like a child playing dead. And even then I swear I could hear breathing, but not mine, slower, fainter, like someone else was pretending to. I think I've started missing time. Nothing dramatic, just gaps. I'll make tea and find the kettle already warm. I'll look at my laptop and find a tab open to a page I've never read. A medical forum about sleep disorders. I don't remember opening it. But the worst was the voicemail. I only keep the landline because Elle insisted on it, and I never use it now. But last Sunday, the red light was blinking. One message, I played it. It was me. my voice saying nothing, just breathing. 47 seconds of breath. Then the sound of the hallway light flicking off. I checked the call log. It came from my number sent at 3:42 a.m. That was the first time I really considered that maybe I wasn't alone. Not in the ghost way, not in the horror movie way. I mean, maybe I'm not alone in myself. Maybe something's gotten in or out, or maybe it's just decay quiet and private, peeling away the thin line between now and then, inside and outside. I started locking the bedroom door, which feels stupid in a one-bedroom house. But I need the ritual. I need to hear the click. I started putting tape on the floor, watching for footprints. I started whispering goodnight to the hallway light. And then last night I got brave. I stayed up past 3:42. I sat on the floor with the lights off, listening, waiting, feeling the silence build in the walls, like water pressing in hand. At exactly the minute, not a second early, the hallway light flickered, not on just one little blink, like a wink, and then the door creaked. Just once, just enough. I stayed still, held my breath. My eyes adjusted, and I swear, saw someone standing at the edge of the hall, not moving, just watching. I thought it was a shadow, a trick, but then it turned, not a body, a shape, like a smear in the dark, and then it stepped backward, not toward me, but away, and each step made no sound. And when I finally got up the courage to look, it was gone. Of course it was. I didn't sleep. I just waited for light, and when it came, I checked the yard. New snow, new prints, leading out again. But this time 2 sets, one smaller, one wider. Mine. I don't remember leaving. I don't remember going anywhere. But I followed them just like last time, just past the fence. And this time they didn't disappear. They curved around back toward the side door. I followed them all the way, until they stopped right in front of the basement bulkhead. I never use the basement. It floods, smells like soil and rust, but the doors were open. Not wide, just ajar. Like someone had slipped in quietly, gently, careful not to wake anything. I stood there. For a long time I told myself not to look, but I did. And at the bottom of the steps I saw an old tape recorder, one I haven't owned in years. Just sitting there, lid cracked, red light blinking. I brought it up, sat it on the kitchen table, and pressed play. The tape hissed, and then my voice. I think I've been walking in my sleep, I said. I think I've been seeing myself from the outside. And I don't know who closes the door behind me. Then static, then a whisper. I couldn't make out the words, but it was my voice reversed. Played backwards. I rewound, listened again and again, over and over, until I could almost understand it. Almost. I think it said, "You left already, you're just listening now." That was this morning. I haven't gone outside. I haven't opened the door. But I checked the snow again. There are no prints now, not leading out, not leading in, just blank white, erased, like it never happened. Or like it did, and then I did what I always do. I came back, closed the door, forgot. Maybe I'd been doing that longer than I know. Maybe that's why Elle left. Maybe that's what she meant when she said the house was too quiet. Maybe she heard something before I did. Maybe she was the first to notice. The prints, I don't know what's real anymore. But I do know one thing: the light just flickered, and I didn't move.